California's greatest disaster may have been a flood most Americans have never heard of. In the winter of 1861 1862, California experienced one of the most destructive floods in its recorded history. The disaster began after a series of powerful Pacific storms brought extraordinary amounts of rain and snow across the state. From December 1861 through January 1862, rain continued for weeks. Rivers rose rapidly, and the Sacramento and San Joaquin valleys became enormous inland lakes. In Sacramento, floodwater covered much of the city. Streets became waterways, and residents used boats to travel through flooded neighborhoods. The flooding was especially severe because California's Central Valley is naturally low and surrounded by mountains. When rivers overflowed, there was little room for the water to escape. Thousands of farms and ranches were inundated, destroying crops, livestock, homes, roads, and bridges. The economic damage was enormous for a young California. Transportation and communication were disrupted, businesses suffered, and agricultural losses spread across the state. In Sacramento, the city later raised streets and strengthened flood defenses, partly because of lessons learned from the disaster. The flood also changed California's understanding of flood risk. Before 1861, many communities had limited protection against major flooding. Afterward, engineers and local governments increasingly recognized the importance of stronger levees, drainage systems, and elevated structures. Modern researchers have found evidence that floods of similar or greater scale have occurred in California before. Geological studies also show that extremely wet periods can return again. Scientists sometimes use the term megaflood for events capable of producing widespread, long lasting flooding across the Central Valley. The 1861 1862 flood is often overshadowed by California's later earthquakes, wildfires, and droughts, yet its impact was profound. It demonstrated how extreme weather and geography could overwhelm communities and disrupt an entire state. Today, California has extensive flood control infrastructure, but the lesson remains important. The state's greatest natural risks are not limited to disasters that receive the most public attention. More than 160 years later, the Great Flood of 1861 1862 remains a powerful example of how water, geography, and extreme weather can combine to create a statewide catastrophe across California with little warning.